Let's get something straight right now. Sonic is awesome. If it's not perfectly clear by now, I love talking about Sonic. He's my favorite fictional character, and I believe him to be one of the greatest icons in all of kids' entertainment. Not just in video games, but in anything really. I know Sonic is primarily a gaming franchise, but honestly, if there's one thing I love seeing Sonic do, it's go above and beyond with its story, presentation, and characters. I think this is a big part of what makes this franchise special. Heck, sometimes I can go on for a half hour talking about this kind of stuff. And since it's been a while since I've done a top 10, I think now is the time to go back into the topic of story and presentation in Sonic games. Last time, we talked about the best characters, and this time, we'll be taking a look at what I believe to be the best story moments in Sonic games. These could be cutscenes, short moments within cutscenes, CGI cinematics, still frame, dialogue sequences, whatever. As long as it's a moment in a Sonic game in which you're watching something happen on screen that isn't actual gameplay, it qualifies. Now I have one rule for this list. Only one moment per game. Let's face it, some Sonic games have better stories than others, and we don't want any of those games dominating the list. That would get repetitive. I want to give appreciation to as many games as I can in this video. So with all that said, and without further ado, let's get started. This is Nerdword Entertainment's Top 10 Best Sonic the Hedgehog Story Moments. Number 10.
Move it or lose it, Snow Cone!
This is a scene that made me laugh. You guys know at this point how much I dislike Sonic Lost World, but one thing I haven't told you is how much I really do like the game's cutscenes. I think Lost World's story as a whole is a little too flat and simple to even have cutscenes to begin with, especially with these one-dimensional villains, but even then, I can't deny the quality of these scenes. They're easily the best part of the game, and they're honestly some of the best I've seen in the series. They're well animated, the voice acting is pretty good, and most of the time, they're actually funny. Talk about a huge step up from the flat-out insulting cutscenes from Sonic Colors and Generations. Two great games with really bad execution and story. Yeah, some of these scenes are hit or miss, but I gotta say, I've recently come to greatly appreciate these scenes and how well they turned out. Picking one for this list was tricky, but in the end, I went with the one that came to my mind first. In this scene, Sonic is about to go up against one of the Deadly Six, Xena, the Zeddy with every female stereotype you can think of. She scolds him for jacking up her fingernails previously, and Sonic's reaction is one of the best I've heard from him.
Oh my gosh, are you serious? I am so sorry.
Well, in that case...
Oh no, what I meant to say is, I'm so sorry that you have nothing more important to do in life.
Oh, you're gonna pay for that! As soon as my nails dry.
In the current wave of Sonic games we've had in the last 5 years, or as I like to call it, the era of Smith Sonic, I found Sonic to be way too cheesy in his line delivery and just his overall personality. He talks way too much and comes across as being too full of himself, without any more depth to his character beyond that. Really, what I'm trying to say is, in the recent games, Sonic's really only half of what he should be. This doesn't always have to be a bad thing though, and Sonic Lost World pulls off this approach to Sonic in about the best way it can. Sonic might be a complete tool, but at least he's an entertaining one.
Well, yeah. What? It's what I do!
Number 9. Yeah, you didn't expect a game from the Sega Genesis to appear on this list, now did you? Sonic 3 and Knuckles is one of my favorite Sonic games for a number of obvious reasons, like its expansive level design and its multiple characters, but another thing I love about this game is that it attempts to tell a story, and does so in the very best way it can. There's no dialogue, but the visual information is all you need. I think every Sonic game with a simplistic story should be executed like this, you know, unless the cutscenes are just really good. My favorite moment in Sonic 3 is when our heroes reach the Shrine of the Master Emerald. After getting his tail handed to him, Knuckles finally finds out he's been duped by Dr. Eggman, and then he must help Sonic and Tails get to the Sky Sanctuary and take Eggman down. This scene is so cool because, up to now, we've been seeing this shrine every time we've gone to a special stage in the second half of the game. You know, you can find those dang rings in these levels. But we never quite known what it was. This moment brings the adventure full circle, now that Eggman has found it for himself and begins to steal the Master Emerald. The fact that we've seen this temple before this point makes the situation feel more personal, giving us more motivation to get the Emerald back. Also, seeing Knuckles finally realize how much of a jerk he's been to us all this time is pretty sweet. Pretty sweet indeed. Number 8! Sonic Heroes was a game of a lot of firsts, at least in my case. It was the first Sonic game I ever owned, and the first one I ever beat for that matter. So it was my first in-game exposure to Metal Sonic, Super Sonic, Big the Cat, and of course, the Chaotix. Heck, I wouldn't be surprised if this was most people's first exposure to these guys. I mean, come on, raise your hand if you've ever played Knuckles Chaotix. Yeah, that's what I thought. And for the record, I'm not raising my hand either. I'm sure Sonic Team had this in mind as well, and saw Sonic Heroes as a good opportunity to completely reintroduce the Chaotix. Everything in this one intro scene tells you everything you need to know about these guys before the adventure begins. SBO is calm, but always alert and ready to strike, like the ninja he is. Vector is greedy and short-tempered, but likes to rock out, and Charmy is a hyperactive little ball of dynamite. The three characters show their chemistry by bouncing off of each other with their dialogue, and in only 52 seconds, you're completely on board with these characters, you probably already like them, and you're ready to get to know them even more throughout the adventure. I love Sonic Heroes for being this great big reunion of Sonic characters. It was such a great way to introduce me as a kid to this diverse cast, and out of all the introductions, Team Chaotix had the best one. Number 7. Number 7 is the bad ending of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. After defeating Metal Robotnik on the Death Egg, Sonic is hurled out into space, where Tails then uses his plane, the Tornado, to fly up and save him. If you collected all the Chaos Emeralds, this scene is pretty pointless, because Super Sonic seems perfectly capable of taking care of himself. It's like Tails flies up to Sonic and is like, "Hey Sonic, you okay buddy?" And Sonic's like, "Yeah man, it's all good in the hood." "Alright, just checking." "Hey come on Tails, let's pose in the sky together." "Okay!" But if you didn't get all of the Chaos Emeralds, Super Sonic doesn't appear, meaning that Sonic is literally falling down from space and Tails really does rescue him. I think this is one of the series' best moments regarding Sonic and Tails' friendship. It shows that they really can rely on each other, and that sometimes Sonic is the one that needs rescuing. A perfect ending to one of the best games I've ever played. Number 6. Another great Tails moment, here we have one of the final scenes in Tails' story in Sonic Adventure. Out of all the player avatars in this game, I think Tails is the one that got the most character development. Throughout his story, he slowly gains his own independence and learns to stop relying on Sonic for everything. This comes full circle after Sonic and Tails get separated after an incident at the Egg Carrier, and Tails is the only one who can stop Eggman after he threatens to blow up Station Square as a last resort. Now, the delivery of this moment is a little hokey given Sonic Adventure's archaic presentation, but the scene had good intentions. Tails is meant to come across as forcing himself to be brave as he confronts Dr. Eggman, and is genuinely surprised and excited upon his victory. Sadly, this is one of the only times in the series where something like this happens, because just about every other Sonic game after this once again treats Tails as Sonic's inferior sidekick, instead of a competent teammate. I guess that just makes this scene all the more special, or all the more pointless if you think about it. Number 5. In Sonic Rush for the DS, we meet Blaze the Cat, the first female character to rival Sonic's abilities. I've sung her praises in my previous top 10, stating that she should always be a player avatar in these games, but I just want to emphasize just how great she is in terms of actual character development. Blaze is a lonely princess who's been led to believe that she can only rely on herself, and believes that protection of the world is her responsibility and hers only. We learn all of this about her throughout the adventure after she is transported into Sonic's world. Near the end of her story, she winds up taking all of her anger and confusion out on Sonic. It's an intense fight and an emotional moment overall. In the end, Sonic gets Blaze to settle down and teaches her about the value of relying on one's friends. In this moment, we not only get a revelation in Blaze's character, but we also get a great example of Sonic being a good role model toward his friends and maybe even the player in some cases. I love seeing Sonic act like such a nice guy. Remember when I was talking about how the more recent Sonic games have presented Sonic as only half of the character he should be? Well, this is the other half I'm talking about. Sonic's kindness is an essential part of his character, and Sonic Rush doesn't seem to forget that at all. Number 4. Guys, don't hate me. I'm just gonna tell you right off. There's a Sonic 06 moment on this list.
The Eye of Now absorbed your power through your shadow in the past. What may have worked 10 years ago no longer does.
So I think it's safe to say that my two least favorite Sonic games are Shadow the Hedgehog and Sonic 2006. And they're both bad for the same two reasons. One, they're messy, unfun games, and two, they ruin Sonic's cast of characters. Shadow the Hedgehog ruined Shadow the Hedgehog, and Sonic 06 ruined everyone else. Except for Shadow, actually. Yeah, as it turns out, Sonic 06, the game that managed to ruin everything that was cool about Sonic and his friends, somehow managed to get Shadow right. In this game, he's been rewritten as a secret agent of GUN, and he's the cool and mysterious, yet determined and fierce straight man of the story. OMG, yes, where was this Shadow during his own game? I could have done without all the brooding melodrama. Shadow works incredibly well in a secret agent role, and I think Shadow is at his best when he acts like he does in this game, because I believe this to be his true personality at the end of the day. Shadow's best moment in 06 is at the very end of his story. He and Team Dark have finally taken down the big baddie of the game, Nephiles, or so they thought. Nephiles comes back full force and persuades Shadow to give up. You see, earlier in the game, Nephiles brought up the idea that one day the military will come to fear Shadow's abilities and turn against him. He brings this up again and asks Shadow what's the point of fighting for those who might persecute him later. Shadow's response to this has got to be one of my favorite lines ever spoken by him. It encapsulates everything I love about Shadow's character and everything I expect it to be.
If the world chooses to become my enemy, I will fight like I always have.
He then references Sonic X of all things and ends his story off with a bang by dashing full speed at Nephiles to take him down once and for all. This is one of the only few genuinely good moments that 06 has, but I guess I am saying that with a bit of personal bias. After all, Shadow is my favorite Sonic character other than the Blue Hedgehog himself. How could Shadow's greatest story moment not make this list? Number 3! Alright, so you knew a moment from Adventure 2 would make this list. It's inevitable, considering just how famous this game is among the fanbase for its story. Keeping with the one scene per game rule was tough with this one, because there are quite a few scenes I would have included otherwise, but if I used them all, they'd probably take up half this list to be honest. So, which scene have I chosen for the number 3 spot? Well, all I can say is if I had to pick one, this was a no-brainer.
You never cease to surprise me, Blue Hedgehog. I thought that capsule you were in exploded in space.
You know, what can I say? I die hard. You actually saved me, you know.
Say what you will about the questionable audio mixing. Sonic and Shadow's final confrontation will always be my favorite moment in Sonic Adventure 2. It also happens to be my favorite conversation in the series. This scene gives us two established rivals who, despite hating each other's guts, also feel the need to talk respectfully to one another before duking it out. After seeing Sonic make it out alive after being flung into space by Eggman, Shadow begins to think very highly of Sonic and his abilities. Seeing these two clash is a spectacle in of itself, and the rivalry they share is one of my favorite character relationships in this franchise. It's something I'd like to see more of, and this is arguably the only game that goes all that in-depth into it. Lucky for us, it does so extremely well enough to satisfy. This scene still gives me chills to this day, so I guess that's gotta mean something.
So, there's more to you than just looking like me. What are you, anyway?
What you see is what you get. Just a guy that loves adventure. I'm Sonic the Hedgehog.
I see, but you know, I can't let you live. Your adventuring days are coming to an end.
Number 2! Yeah, I know, even I'm surprised this isn't number 1. Is there anything to say about Sonic Unleashed's opening cutscene that hasn't already been said? It's beautiful, it's well animated, it's intense, it's humorous, it's daring. It simply has everything that makes good CGI animation. I give Sonic Unleashed a lot of praise in general for having fantastic presentation and production values, and this is where it all starts. I almost feel bad that this scene so easily takes away any chance of a different scene from Unleashed making it on here, because Unleashed had some other pretty fantastic moments. This one simply takes the cake because it just gets everything right in terms of being an intro to a modern Sonic game. It kicks things into high gear from the get-go, and sets up an intense, over-the-top action scene that's pulled off fabulously without even having that much dialogue. The scene even has the balls to give Super Sonic an appearance for good measure. Unleashed is only the second game to do that. great. This scene truly shows Sonic doing what he does best, roughing up Eggman's forces with loads of style and only a few words. It's living proof that Sonic can sometimes be loudest when he isn't even speaking. It's almost like a modern reimagining of a classic Sonic scenario. I mean, we've got just Sonic and Eggman, Sonic barely speaks, and everything you need to know about the situation is told visually. It's pure eye candy with better execution than I've ever seen in any other Sonic moment. I swear guys, I meant for this scene to be number 1 from the very beginning of my writing process for this list. But there is one other moment that somehow managed to sneak its way to the top. I myself didn't even see this one coming. But as soon as it came to mind, I simply had to be fair and push the Unleashed intro down 1 space to number 2. So the question remains, just what Sonic story moment could possibly top this? Well, before I reveal that, let's have a quick recap, followed by a few honorable mentions. Number 10, You Ruined My Nail Art. Number 9, The Master Emerald Shrine. Number 8, Introduction of the Chaotix. Number 7, Tails Saves Sonic. Number 6, Tails Saves the Day. Number 5, Sonic vs. Blaze. Number 4, I Will Fight Like I Always Have. Number 3, Sonic vs. Shadow. And number 2, the opening cutscene for Sonic Unleashed. Honorable mentions include this somewhat charming and romantic scene between Knuckles and Rouge in Sonic Adventure 2, this Eggman to Eggman bickering in Sonic Generations, this Sonic 06 cutscene where Shadow roundhouse kicks Silver, the opening cutscene for Sonic 06, every appearance of Super Sonic ever, the only scene I ever liked in Sonic Colors, every cutscene in Sonic Unleashed, and this one scene in Sonic Lost World that I can't even believe the writers got away with.
Oh yeah, that's the stuff! Feed me, baby! I'm feeling stronger by the second! Why'd you stop, boss? I felt great!
And finally, number 1.
Oh, brave knight, swift as the wind, heed my call.
Skyrocketing to the number 1 spot, we cap this list off with the opening cutscene of Sonic and the Black Knight. Now, I'm not really all that big a fan of this game. I mean, it's okay, but it's really nothing too spectacular. However, I am a really big fan of this game's presentation, story, and overall premise. Slapping Sonic into the world of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table seems like a pretty silly idea, and it is, but it's silly in all the right ways. You've got Sonic, this cocky, impolite, modern teenager, suddenly thrust into this world of chivalry and proper conduct. The sheer contrast presented in this situation really allows Sonic to stand out, and I must say, this just might be my favorite Sonic performance in any game in the series. Let's be honest, there have been many instances where Sonic has been a different character from game to game, depending on the circumstances. For example, you know, Sonic was a mute hero in the Genesis games, a cheesy 90s kid in Adventure 1 and Colors for that matter. He was an all-out Power Ranger in Heroes, he was a complete dipwad in Shadow the Hedgehog and Sonic 06, and so on and so forth. Very few games have established Sonic's character in a definitive, consistent way, and Sonic and the Black Knight just happens to be one of them. This is Sonic. From beginning to end, Sonic is the lovable, entertaining main character I expect him to be. He's a cocky little stinker who doesn't play by the rules, but deep down, he's a nice guy who cares most about protecting his friends. Sonic and the Black Knight nails Sonic's personality, and I gotta hand it to Jason Griffith on this one. Going back on my previous statements about him, ever since revisiting Black Knight's cutscenes, I have to say that Griffith just might be my favorite actor ever to play the voice of Sonic. Yeah, he's been given some poor line direction in certain other games, but it's cases like this that really let Griffith's hidden talent shine through. It's a shame he was replaced after this game. Just like with Lost World, I think every cutscene in Sonic and the Black Knight is pretty great, but the reason the opening cinematic takes the cake is because I think it represents Sonic's character the best out of all of them. The chili dogs, the subtle mannerisms, the nonchalant attitude, it's all there. And it is all brilliant. But the best part is Sonic's reaction upon seeing Merlina for the first time after being summoned by her. He's suddenly out in the middle of nowhere, he's got all these goons surrounding him, this armored king on a horse is stepping towards him, and this girl is asking him to forgive her abrupt summons, and this is what he has to say.
Oh, I get it. No problem. I'm used to stuff like this.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is my favorite line Sonic has ever spoken. No other line has ever represented this character better. Griffith's delivery is perfect, and Sonic's body language rounds out the entire moment as something absolutely brilliant. To be honest, I had almost forgotten about this game while writing this list, and I guess that's truly a testament to how little recognition Sonic and the Black Knight often gets. But as soon as it came back into memory, I knew it had to be on this list in some way or another. And wouldn't you know, its first cutscene made its way to the #1 spot, even after I was so sure Unleashed's intro couldn't be topped. I guess all it takes for a Sonic moment to satisfy me, even more so than exquisitely animated action sequences, is simply a good one-liner and creative use of a chili dog. And there's my list, guys. As always, I hope you all enjoyed it. And I hope this expression of my opinions has given you even more appreciation for this character I hold so near and dear to my heart. Most of the time, characters and story moments only matter so much in regards to video games made for kids and families, but when it comes to Sonic games, it really is the little things like these that make me happy. And I hope future Sonic games can give me the same satisfaction as the top qualifiers on this list, while also being fun, memorable games in general. Because in the case of Sonic, we usually only get one or the other. I think that's one of the main reasons there's so much diversity, not only in this series itself, but also in its fan base. All of this variety is what's given the series its reputation, for better or worse. And I think a good way to strengthen that reputation is for just as much heart and soul to go into both the gameplay and presentation aspects. I think that will define the difference between a good Sonic game and a great one. The lovable cast of characters and rich mythology truly is what makes Sonic special to me. He isn't just a player avatar. He's an entertainment icon with all the potential in the world, and should be treated as such. I have so many great memories with this character, and most of them come from the times in which I wasn't even pressing buttons on a controller. One of my greatest hopes for this series is that there are even more memories like that have yet to be experienced. Moments that allow us as fans, moments that allow us as the general gaming community to come together and say, now there's the Hedgehog I know and love. Who knows what could happen in the future? But regardless of such, I'm sure we can all agree that Sonic has a pretty rich history of great moments that we can appreciate. A history of moments that have given us a lot of laughs, a lot of fun, and of course, a lot of speed.